And we're joined by Sarah Wayne Callies.
Hi guys.
So how's your con going so far?
This is the most beautiful venue I've ever been to. I'm in the small room, which is the most amazing thing because we've got natural light and everybody can think straight and it's not this kind of juggernaut. It's been the greatest couple days of con I've ever had. It's actually been really fun.
So what would you say your most memorable con experience has been out of all of them so far?
Well, you know, I had a gentleman recently come up to me in the line and let me know that we were related, which was kind of crazy. Yeah, apparently his grandfather and my grandfather were brothers, and he had all these family pictures of my grandparents when they were my age that I'd never seen before.
Oh my gosh.
And I was completely disarmed. I was, you know, you're doing the like, hey, thanks for watching the, what? What's your name? Like, what? It was kind of crazy. But yeah, so I walked away from that convention with more family. Doesn't happen every day.
Right.
So jumping into Walking Dead questions, I'm wondering if there was a certain episode or maybe even a certain scene in which you first felt like you really got your character, you really clicked with her for the first time.
You know, I think there was a scene in season 1 when we've just buried the dead that we lost during the first attack on the camp. And it was a big issue between some of the members of the survivors at that moment about whether we burn the dead or we bury the dead. And Rick and Lori are walking back together. And she says, tell me one thing with certainty. And he says, I love you. That's all I got right now. And that was the moment where the two of them made sense to me. You know, that these are two people who know that they're flawed and know that the other one is flawed and choose to love one another and have faith in each other anyway. I always liked that scene.
Is there anything that you miss about being on the show?
All my friends. Like, it's a remarkable cast. I mean, it's such a nice, hi! It's such a nice group of people and genuinely kind and respectful and talented and lovely human beings. I've never worked on a cast where so many people became such close friends. And it's remarkable. You know, in any job, to get 24 people together who really like working with each other, it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Unless you've like forced people to go through basic training. You don't bond that way. And so I do miss that. But the strange thing, you know, people ask me all the time, they said, do you miss being on the show? I said, well, the show I miss doesn't exist anymore. And that's the genius of the show, that it continuously evolves. But the show I miss is John Bernthal and Laurie Holden and, you know, Jeff DeMunn and Scott Wilson and, you know, all of these wonderful people that we created something with. There's so many people here, I'm like, hi, I'm Sarah, you're on my show. I mean, it's just a totally new cast. It's brilliant.
How did your relationship and your bond with Chandler evolve over the seasons?
Well, Chandler's a remarkable young man. I mean, I think take away the part of him being a very high-profile person in a very high-profile show in a very high-profile industry. He is a man of remarkable grace and manners and kindness. When you add in all the rest of that stuff, it's nothing short of a miracle. I mean, when I got to know Chandler, he was a boy. He was a little boy. And I knew that because I could put my elbow on his shoulder. And he's like 2 years from his elbow being on my shoulder. I mean, a group of us. I came out about 4 weeks early because I wanted to get to know Georgia. I wanted the dialect to be right. I wanted to have a sense of the place since it was supposed to be, you know, my home. And when I got to set, Andy and John were the only two other actors who were around, and Lenny James, who did his work with playing Morgan so brilliantly. And so, you know, Andy and John and I had this little kind of few weeks to just get to know one another. And we really spent a lot of time with that because we're people who would have grown up together our entire lives, and we were trying to figure out the balance between things. And I'll never forget the very first time I met them. They were picking me up to go to a barbecue someone was having in the art department. John had blown his knee out, so he couldn't drive. And Andy, I don't think had a driver's license. Like, and I don't mean in the U.S. I mean, like, I don't think he could legally drive, but he was behind the wheel of this rental car, all cowboyed up with his accent already perfect. And I was sitting in the back watching him and John navigate through this city because they're both dead against, like, any kind of GPS. And we got catastrophically lost. I mean, we got so lost that I was like, I'm not sure we're in Georgia. And we spent the entire afternoon just laughing our pants off. It was hysterical. And I thought, these gentlemen, they're both so talented, they're so good looking, they're both leading men, and there is not an ounce of competition or ego between them. I thought, we're about to have a whole lot of fun.
Who do you think Judah's father is?
I should probably not say I don't know. For obvious reasons. Here's what I'll tell you. I mean, it's funny because it's a lighthearted question, but I have 2 children. I had one biologically, and I adopted my second child. And so I want to say as an adoptive mom that Rick is the baby's father, because he is the one fighting every day to keep her alive and to feed her and to care for her. And so, you know, in my opinion, biology may be secondary to the person who steps up and says, I take responsibility for loving that child. Unless it has a big funny looking nose, and then that's all I'll think.
How did you enjoy your time while you were down in Georgia filming? Did you like the state?
I love Georgia so much I bought a house down there. Georgia is amazing. It is so beautiful. The mountains are incredible. The rivers are beautiful. Atlanta's an incredible city. There's such good food and amazing music, and Atlanta's such an incredible, like, there's people from everywhere in Atlanta. Some of my best friends down the block were Colombian. You know what I mean? Like, it's a really international city, but it's still livable. You know, it's not as, it's like San Francisco. It's not as overwhelming as, like, you know, I love New York, but like 2 weeks in New York and I gotta go sleep for a month. And so I really enjoyed it down there. There's also, I'm from Hawaii, and there's a gentleness and a politeness to the culture and a modesty to the culture I grew up in that I found was very similar in the South. You know, when you see people on the street, you say hi to them. If you open a door for somebody, it's, you know, thank you and yes ma'am and no sir and that kind of a thing, and I really appreciated it.
Do you have any upcoming projects that you can tease for fans?
Yeah, last year I shot a movie in India called The Other Side of the Door that I think would probably be something that would appeal to the Walking Dead gang. It's creepy as all get out. It's really amazing, actually. It was a total joy to work on. After that, I shot a movie with Nick Cage. He's this up-and-coming actor who's been in some film festivals. That was amazing because he is, you know, you start realizing that some people are enormously famous because they're just that good at what they do and so prepared, and they elevate everybody's work. And then I shot a science fiction pilot called Colony for the USA Network. We're waiting to see whether they pick that up or not. I don't really have any say over that, but if they do, then I get to be back on TV in the fall.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. Do you have any closing messages or words for the fans that couldn't be here?
I mean, look, the Walking Dead fans, in my experience, are some of the most amazing fans in the world. We did this show thinking that we might get, like, if we were lucky, we might get 1 million viewers, and maybe they'd give us a second season. None of us saw this coming. None of us saw this whole thing coming, and you know, that all came from you. It came from the fans here in the States. It came from the fans around the world. So I'm very grateful to you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Can we grab a quick photo with you? Yeah, for sure.